Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, thebrownssugarcafe.blog, and if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. I hope that you all are doing well. Hope that you all are taking care of yourself. I hope you all are finding time for some self-care. Today is just like any other day. We have another special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Antonio Landis Thompson, also known as King Tunes. I'm a life coach and speaker, originally from the Bahamas. That's why you could hear that accent. Grew up in the beautiful lands of the Bahamas. And I just love helping people release their potential, discover their purpose, and become all what they were designed to be. And I'm so excited. I've been on plenty podcasts, but I'm so excited to be on the Brown Sugar podcast.
Oh man, thank you for coming on. How you been, man? It's been a while since we chopped it up. How you been?
I'm doing good, just like the day was just like regular day, I'm married. I still have young kids who are very athletic in track and field, cross country, soccer. So every weekend I'm either traveling somewhere in state or out of state. So I'm always, my kids keep me busy and my kids keep me young.
Yeah. And you're athletic yourself. You do runs, man. Don't act like it's
Yeah.
just the kids now. You you be doing races and runs.
Yeah, I do some running. I coming at the end of the year, I was kind of a little congested. Like I might have I think I may have had a sinus infection, and I didn't even
Yeah.
want to run. So I didn't run. The first time I ran, probably for the year, was probably last week. So now I'm getting back in the thing of things, and there's a half marathon coming up in April. So I
Okay.
think I'm going. Yeah, I want to run that. But one of the things I love running is because whenever I set out to do a race, for some reason my body get focused, my eating get better, so the running actually keeps me focused.
Yeah. I had a guest on here, Curtis
Mm.
Caesar John, and we were talking about running because I told him that I wanna try to do the Cooper River Bridge run.
Oh, whew, that's nice. I never did it, but it's nice. It's
Yeah,
nice.
that's been one of my things that I've wanted to do since I was a kid, and this year I might do it.
You
There's
could do
gonna
it.
now if I do it, it's gonna be some walk, run, jog
But guess
along the
what?
way.
But guess what? I've run like over 5 full marathons, and
Woo!
I've run over at least 12 half marathons. And what I've learned, I've walked, I've ran, I walk and I've ran because sometimes your body's not there. Sometimes you're tired. So it's
Yeah.
all right. Hey, swallow your pride. If you need to walk, just walk.
See,
So yeah, yeah.
spoken like a true runner.
And,
Every time I
and
talk to a runner, y'all say the same thing. It's
and
okay to
this what
walk.
happened when I first started running. Even when I got into speaking, a lady we used to work together in terms of speaking together,
Yeah.
working on different stuff. And she said, Antonio, you are too high focus. I said, what do you mean I'm too high focus? She said, when you speak, you just want to get your audience from point A to point B. And I said, you know what? That's very interesting. And when I look at my running, when I first started running, mind you, I'm not going to win the race, right? But I felt like I had to run, 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 run. And I used
Yeah.
to try to figure out, why is it that I'm running and these people stopping, drinking Gatorade, getting some water, and the same people who used to take a break and walk, most of the times they were the people who beat me at the at the end of the
Yeah.
race. Because in my mind, I was like, why should I stop? But now I
Right.
realize it's all right to stop, man. So my last race, I run and stop. Sometimes I run the full time, but if I gotta stop, I stop because it rejuvenates your body.
That's a
Yeah,
good point, man. Wow.
yeah,
See,
yeah,
see
yeah,
this
yeah,
this
yeah,
up already dropping
yeah,
bombs, man.
yeah. Yeah, that's something right there. That's a bomb right there. Because
Yeah.
because in life, and I'll throw it back to you. In life, we believe like I was too high focused. We believe we have to constantly keep moving, moving, moving. Like what I'm learning now is like when I come home, my wife's like, "Are you tired?" No, I just want to lay down for a few minutes and I just want to take a nap. So what I learned in life, it's a principle. sometimes you gotta slow down. And slow down don't mean you're getting left back. Slow down don't mean you give up. Slow down mean you just rehydrating, refocus, you're assessing everything, get that energy like a power nap, and you're on your way.
Man, yeah, that's it. I'm a fan of naps, man. I've been taking naps since high school.
Yeah.
In college, one of my favorite things to do in between classes, I used to get me a little 15-minute nap and
Oh, I
then
know about
head on
that
to the
too. Yeah,
next.
yeah.
What was life like for you growing up in the Bahamas?
In the Bahamas, it was my my culture is very laid back, which could be an advantage, but also it could be a disadvantage because there's nothing but wrong with being laid back, but sometimes you could be too laid back.
Mm,
But I grew up in a culture that was very laid back. Our number one industry is tourism. And so, because our number one industry is tourism, when I would get on we would call the jitney, or over here we call the city bus, I would be seeing people from all around the world, Americans. I would be seeing Indians. I would be seeing Chinese. I would be seeing Japanese. So I didn't even realize at that particular time I was being exposed to all types of cultures. It was not like a black culture or a white culture or just a Hispanic culture. It was cultures from all around the world. And our main industry is tourism. So I grew up just seeing people always, every day, from around the world, from somewhere. And what that did, that just got me prone and adjusted to be able to relate to people. In the Bahamas, family is very important. I'm like when I took my wife to visit one of the first time, she said, "That's your cousin." But that's your cousin, like your third or fourth cousin. I say third or fourth cousin, we cousins.
yeah, yeah. That's how my family is. Yeah, just
Right.
like that.
So it's a predominantly Christian nation. We have other religions and faiths there, but it's predominantly Christian nation. We were under the British rule, so we have a lot of the colonial style influence. Like I drink tea. I like to drink tea a lot. This year I haven't drank no coffee. When I came to America, every house I went to, they's like, "Do you want coffee?" Then I started drinking coffee. But in the Bahamas, we have a lot of British influence, even down to the point of the names of the school. So that's how come when I came to the U.S. to go to school, especially Charleston, I felt like I was home
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the first time I went to Charleston, one of the first words I saw was Mount Pleasant. It's like Mount Pleasant. Wait a minute. So I said, okay, that's just one. Okay, that's just one word, Mount Pleasant. I said, okay, that's and then in the island I grew up, I was born in Eleuthera, but I grew up in Nassau, and the subdivision was Mount Pleasant. So
mhm,
okay, so then I got down Charleston. I see East Bay Street, East Bay. We have the same street in the Bahamas, East Bay. Then also, I say, wait a minute, are those ladies doing straw work with the straw baskets? We do the
yeah,
same thing home.
yeah,
So when I came to America to go to school, when I went to Charleston the first time, it really, like the downtown, it really I saw that colonial influence, but also it remind me also of being home in the Bahamas. Yeah.
yeah. You sound like us too, so I'm sure you're right at home.
Well, that when I came over here, people used to say, they say, "You sound like my people." I was like, "What people are they talking about?" They say, "You sound like my people." And they say, "Charleston." And I didn't know about Charleston. I say,
Yeah,
"Oh, yeah." So we sound alike. Yeah,
yeah.
Charleston, man.
My accent is kind of gone now, but let me go back home or talk to somebody. It just
Being
it's
away,
kind
yeah.
of, but yeah, yeah. I used to get that all the time. When I first went to college, people were like, "Are you from the islands?" I'm like, "No." What brought you to America? Because I know people like for us, it's like, oh man, the Bahamas is a beautiful place.
Yeah,
And it's always interesting when we see places that we find beautiful and then people come over here because even South Carolina, a lot of us are just, it's like, it's okay, we live here. But it's fascinating when I find people come to, especially South Carolina.
yeah.
So what brought you here?
What great question. What brought me here was school, was education. A lot of people back home in the Bahamas, we come over to the US to go to school. We want to go to those 4 year colleges, or we want to come to get a PhD degrees or what have you. A lot of athletics is back home in the Bahamas. So a lot of students come over because of scholarships on tracks, scholarships, softball scholarship, you name it. So one of the main reasons I came over here was just to go to school, got my education. I already had my plan. I was going to come over here, get my education. I was going to work in America for 3 to 5 years. Then after that, I was going to go back home.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the original plan. In fact, people always ask me. They say, "Well, why did you move over here?" Initially, I didn't move over here. I just came over here to go to school,
Ah,
and
yeah.
then I stayed in South Carolina. In my mind, I was like, okay, let me get out of South Carolina. Let me get out of South Carolina. That's how I was thinking. But
Yeah.
everything just started just shifting me here. And then I love South Carolina. It kind of reminds me of home. You're in the US, you're not in a big city, it's laid back. So the food, I went to in South Carolina when I came, I said they eat fish and grits over here too. I don't believe they eat fish and grits.
Yes.
So
Yes.
some of the so we eat fish and grits. Then I have a buddy, he's from Charleston. We used to work together, and I see when some people in South Carolina, when they eat the fish, they eat the whole fish with the head
Oh
on it. I
yeah.
say,
Yeah.
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 So throwing it back to you, what brought me over here was just further my education, and then my education journey started late because when I was growing up in school, I didn't believe I was college material. I didn't have that mindset. So therefore, I was one of those persons who did not apply
Mhm.
themselves. And so I end up getting into college late. And so that's what brought me over here, just to further my education.
And so what shifted your mindset?
What shifted my mindset was being under the leadership of Dr. Miles Monroe. I mean,
Mm. Yeah.
growing under that leadership, and then also seeing a lot of these gentlemen that you look up to who had different backgrounds. They came over here, they went to school, they became successful businessmen. I saw Dr. Miles Monroe became a multi-millionaire. So I saw this with my eyes. And going to church to me, going to was not just like a normal church you go to Sunday. Dr. Miles Monroe was an artist. He talked about art, he talked about
Yeah.
poems, he talked about culture, he talked about food. Like if I never went to school, I learned about. He talked about Pluto, Socrates. He talked about church. To me was just a educational experience. It was like I was in a. It was I was like in a university, and that started to shift my mind. I started to shift my mind because, like I said before, school, when I was in school from grade 1 to grade 12, I didn't apply myself. I barely graduated out of high school as a C student. But just hearing those stories and being in that environment of people who actually could see the potential in you and actually could see that greatness inside of you, that's when my mind started to shift. Then I said, the thought came to me, I think I could go to college. And back then, before it was like the internet, they used to have the college handbooks, and I would look at the
Oh
college
yeah. I
handbooks,
remember those. Yeah.
and I used to be looking like in America, Australia, China. I was like, I don't know. And I used to be on our back porch. And in the Bahamas, we don't have like a lot of factories. So any given evening, you could always see the stars out at
Oh,
night.
yeah.
So I used to sit outside and I just used to be dreaming at the stars that one day I'm going to go to college. One day I'm going to get married. One day I'm going to get children. But that mind shift came all under being under the leadership of Dr. Miles Monroe and all those teachers there. That just shifted my mind.
It is so interesting that I connected with you and connected with Delano
Yeah.
being under Dr. Miles Monroe because I've always been a fan of his, even when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And like my mother would be playing different pastors and stuff in the house. His voice always caught my attention, like
Mm.
out of everybody else. And I
Yeah.
always honed in on what he was saying. And it's like you said, I can just imagine from the videos and things that I've
Yeah.
seen and heard and different things, just being there, like you being up under that, I could just imagine the experience because I'm still inspired
Oh yeah.
by just videos and stuff,
Me
and
too.
I've never met him. you
Right, right.
know?
Hmm.
And I always thought that I would get the opportunity to meet him, but knowing you and knowing Delano, I
Uh,
have.
yeah, you meeting them. You meeting them. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, yeah. The first time I ever saw, I didn't know who was Dr. Miles Monroe. The first time I ever saw Dr. Miles Monroe was back home when the church started. It used to be on a Friday night. Think about this. They
Yeah.
used to have church on a Friday night. Who would have church on a Friday night? That don't even sound like. But guess what? What people used to do, people were they wanted to stay connected to their so-called churches on Sunday, but they would come
Ah,
to church on a Friday night. And on a Friday night, Dr. Miles Monroe going, he's going to save you some good barbecue from the brown sugar calf, right?
yeah.
He going to give you some ribs. He going to give you some steak. He going to give you some bacon with some thick sliced bacon. Then you go to church on Sunday and you eating one boiled egg. You eating you eating a spoon of grits. It didn't add up. So a lot of people
Yeah.
would go there on Friday. And the first time, my godmother, her and my mom were good friends. My mom is passed now, and my mom said, "I want you to come out with us on Friday night." So I went to see Dr. Miles Monroe. It was at a hotel. It was called Balmoral Beach. And when I walk into the room, I was like a teenager, and I was like, "Is this church?" I was like, "Is this church?" And so people ask me, like, what was the experience? It felt like I was in a classroom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've seen it on TV, but I've never saw no one like talk about the Bible, but he made the Bible like it so interesting. Like he
Yeah.
broke it down, and I was like, I felt like I was in a classroom. And from that time, he had my attention. He had my
Yeah.
attention, and the rest was history. Because
I
I felt like I was in a classroom. It didn't feel like I was at a church. Of course, it was on a Friday night. Okay, Friday night at a church. I said, okay, let me just go. And when I
yeah.
walk in there, it's like, wow, I'm a teenager, but he held my attention as a
Yeah.
teenager.
See? Yeah. And that's what it was. I think that now that you're saying that,
Yeah,
it was like it felt you were getting educated. And like
educated.
I said, his voice has always caught my attention.
Yeah.
And wow, yeah. Oh man, that's interesting, man.
I getting excited now talking about
Yeah.
that.
One thing about you that I really appreciate is your passion for people.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank you, thank you.
we talked about in the pre-show purpose, and
Yeah.
that's something that you're very, very adamant on. Growing up, we kind of discussed that already, but when did purpose become an important thing for you? And how did that shift into you wanting to help other people find their purpose?
I was going to church under the leadership of Dr. Miles Monroe. And it was not just a regular church, it was like an experience. So I was getting that experience in school and just being under his leadership. And at that time, to be honest with you, I was still coming into my spirituality or awareness of God. I always tell people, I always know there was a good side and there was a bad side. Like you watch the cartoons, there's the good guys, the bad guys. You
Yeah.
watch the movie, the good guys and the bad guys. Back in the day, I used to like to watch, WWF wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ric Flair, woo, Nature
Yeah.
Boy and Dusty Rhodes. People's like, oh, we trying to figure, we probably know how old he is now.
Yeah.
And and so I knew that there was a good side and a bad side. And at a young age, I said, you know what? There's a good side of life and there's a bad side of life. And therefore I want to be on that good side. So from 9 years old, I decided to, connect myself with God. And I thought, okay, once I had my relationship with God, that's all. I'm good. If I die right now, I don't want to die right now because I'm not married, so I don't want to die right now.
Yeah.
But if I die right now, I get my ticket. I have my ticket. And then Dr. Miles Monroe walked into church one day and he started this series on purpose. And I've never heard the word purpose. And it felt like he was talking to me. He says, what is your purpose in life? I said, wait a minute now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This a serious bomb right here. And then he's a great communicator. He said, well, do you know the meaning of your life?
Mm.
Do you know why you are here? And I'm sitting in church. Our church at that time was in a plaza. It was just in a plaza, like a storefront plaza. And I could not, Mr. Terrence, I could not answer the question because at that time I already had like figured out if I die right now, I'm with God. I'm good. I'm with my creator. And in that moment I realized, wow, I can't figure out what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. But also in that moment I realized I'm not a mistake.
Mm,
That my life has significance.
yeah.
That even before my mom knew my dad, God already had a plan for my life. And I said, whoa. And that changed my life. It didn't matter if the color of my skin, the country I was born in, whether I came from a rich family, whether I went to school or did not go to school, whether I was adopted, whether I knew my parents. All I realized is that now my life has a significance. And then I went on that journey of discovering my purpose. And I said, you know what? One of the things for the rest of my life is I'm going to encourage people to come into that awareness of purpose. Because, like Pastor Miles, he has a quote: "The greatest tragedy in life is not death itself, but a life without purpose." And I
Yeah.
realized the greatest answer in life is knowing your purpose. I even went online this week. I was like, tell me some of the top questions that people ask all around the world. And one of the top questions that people ask all around the world, doesn't mean if you live in America, Africa, China, North Korea, South Korea, is what's the meaning of life? What is my purpose in life? And some of us will discover that, and some of us will never discover that. And I said, for the
Mm.
rest of my life, I'm going to help people discover their purpose in life.
That question about what is my purpose, if anybody says they've never asked themselves that, they're
Yeah.
not telling the truth. At some point,
Yeah.
if you haven't asked yourself that yet, you will. And sometimes, you get caught up in, I've seen people get caught up in trying to fulfill a purpose that other people put on them.
Ooh. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not even their purpose.
Mm,
And that
mm,
to me is more dangerous than not knowing your purpose, because you're under the impression that what somebody else wants you to do is what you're supposed to be doing, even though you know in your heart that you should be doing something else.
yeah. Yeah. This is a true story. I don't want to call a person name, but I met this couple many years ago, and very wealthy. You know, this person became a doctor and live on the lake and everything. And so I would go to the house sometimes, do some work around the yard and to make some money on the side. But I noticed the doctor, he had this big shed. And in this shed, he had all of these tools. And it's like, why is it that he have all of these tools? He's a doctor. I mean, he
Yeah.
has the money. And then his wife told me, she said, he never really wanted to be a doctor.
Wow.
He wanted to be an engineer. But his family said, no, you got to go to school to be a doctor. Now, what he did, because he wanted to be an engineer, he took his skills or his passion for engineer and he applied it in the medical field. But this is what blew my mind. He's a doctor. He lives on the lake. He's successful. Right in South Carolina, he lives on a beautiful lake, right? He's a doctor, but he decided to go back to college and get another degree in engineering
Wow.
because that is what he always wanted to do. Now, here's the thing: why would a successful doctor who has the money, who has the house, don't need another degree to make more money? It's because guess what? His passion was always to be an engineer. And even in him being a successful doctor, he decided, let me go back to college, get an engineering degree. Therefore, when I went to the house and I saw all of these tools and this big shed, like he has the money so he can spend it, this big
Yeah.
shed with all kind of tools. Because guess what? He's funding what he always wanted to do, was to be an engineer. So, like you said, sometimes, and me as a parent, I want, we want our kids to be successful, and we push them and what have you. But I told my wife, hey, our kids, they have a purpose too, and we will encourage them to be successful. But at the end of the day, we want them to fulfill the purpose that God has assigned on their lives.
Man, I just thought about some people that I know who went to
Yeah,
college and they majored in things that they really weren't interested in because here, especially growing up in the South, you tell your black parents that you want to be an artist, they're gonna be like, art. You want to do what? How much you make doing that? What type
yeah,
of benefits do you get doing that? You know?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
a lot of that, because I had some guests on and we were talking about the same thing. A
yeah.
lot of that just comes from just from them when they were younger, being raised in the South, and
Yeah.
just, you know, education is very important. I always say that's very important, but I also let people know that college is not for everybody.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
some
yeah,
people go to college who are not prepared just because they're told they need to go and they flunk out.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not on them, you know. In some cases it is, but in those cases where they really don't want to go, but it's always being pushed that you have to and have to go just because you're a certain age. Some people, I mean, honestly, some people aren't ready for college at 17 and 18 years old. I
yeah,
know people who didn't finish when they just dropped out early, but when they and it's interesting, when they
yeah.
got older, they went back and
Mm,
finished. When they had more responsibilities, they were
yeah,
focused enough than when they were a young teenager, fresh out of high school and just all these distractions. And so it's
yeah.
like you have to look at people from an individual standpoint. Like I had a conversation with somebody the other day and they were just talking about all these things that they wanted to do growing up, but they were
Mm,
never encouraged that it was okay.
yeah,
It was like,
yeah,
you gotta have this structure, you have to do this, you have to do that in order to be successful. And so we
yeah,
were always taught, the only way to be successful is you gotta go to college.
yeah.
And then we get out of college and it's like, you gotta go to grad school. And
Yeah,
then it's like,
and I did
yeah.
that.
And it just depends on the individual. And I'm a strong believer that we should encourage everybody to follow their dreams. I wish that people, when we were growing up and stuff, actually looked at, okay, is college the best route for what I want to
Mm,
do? Is a 4-year
mm,
college the best route for what I want to do? Because you could very well go to a 2-year college
yeah,
and get you on the right path to what you're doing. And now certifications are more of a thing.
yeah,
So you may not even need to go to college, just sign up and get some certifications to get you where you're going. So I really appreciate anytime anyone says that, especially when they're talking to their children. It's like, yeah, education is important,
yeah,
but what is your purpose? And
yeah,
is
yeah.
doing this going to get you
Mm,
into the path for your purpose?
ooh,
Because
mm,
I know,
mm,
like, growing up, a lot of stuff we weren't allowed to say and do
yeah,
because, it was like stay in a child's place. We weren't allowed to express ourselves. And I had this conversation too with somebody else. I was just
mm,
like, I think that a lot of our creativity was capped because we weren't allowed to express certain things,
yeah.
you know?
I heard this story. I think it was Sakin Robertson. Delano introduced me to him. He's high on creativity. And one day, I can't remember the full story, so I don't want to mess it up.
Okay.
But this lady, she would not stay still inside the classroom. Not stay still inside the classroom. The teacher was getting concerned. The parents were getting concerned, and they say, "Well, we need to care to psychiatrics or psychologists or something." So the parents say, "Okay," and so they went to the psychologist, and he did his assessment, and they said, "What's wrong?" He said, "The girl is fine." They said, "What you mean she's fine?" He said she loves movement. She loves movement. She likes to move. So the way of her learning, she likes to move. Long story short, she became a dancer.
Ah,
And
yeah.
then she opened up her dance studio. But thank God for teachers, right? My mom was a teacher before she passed. The
Yeah, my mom
teacher
was one
didn't.
too.
Oh, yeah, okay. The teacher could not see that she likes to move. So therefore, the teacher thinks she was not engaged. No, she likes to move. Think about this. I had friends who in the classroom, they were failing in school, like in math and arithmetic, but these same gentlemen that were failing in math and arithmetic, you carry them on the basketball court or to a baseball game, and they're giving you the stats of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. They could tell you all the stuff. Wait a minute. How come you know all of the stats?
Yeah.
It's because in a different environment, the light bulbs come off. Like what we used to do when I was growing up in the Bahamas. I used to like what they used to do sometimes because back then we didn't have like air conditioning in our classrooms. We just used to open up the window. Sometimes the best learning times I had was when the teacher would take us out of the classroom
Yeah.
and we would go sit under a tree and go over the lesson, and you breathe in that nice fresh air. You might hear a dog bark or you might see the birds. And so just in a different learning in the environment. I say all of this to say, like you said, some people are not built to go to a 4-year college. Some people just need to go get a certificate, or some people just need to uh, be apprentice or under somebody where they
Yeah.
could learn how they don't have to go through all of that. And like me, like you understand. Like I had this guy. He's one of my friends. He's a coach. He said this time a couple of years ago is called movement meditation. I say movement meditation. That's like that's me because because when I talk, I like to move.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to move around. I didn't realize I like to move. So that's why because all of us were built different. So in school, I didn't have a good experience in school because guess what? Part of my learning, I like to move. I like the visual. I like to see it, or I like to just hear it. I didn't realize they had all of this type of learning type of ways that you could learn. So guess what? If you have everybody in the classroom and that's all they doing right there, you say they fail out of school. It isn't that they fail out of school. It's just like, look at our girl. Suppose the psychologist or the psychiatrist, suppose he had said, yeah, I think she has a problem. And then he
Yeah.
puts on medication,
Yep.
right? And then guess what? She will have never come into a purpose. She will have never have a dance studio, all because somebody did not see that potential in her, man. Whew.
Yeah. Wow.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And how many dreams were shattered into
Yeah.
the classroom because a teacher walks into a classroom and little Johnny, little Ray Ray or Pookie or Ray Ray or Sammy or Sarah, they drawing because the teacher is reading the poem or the story, and the kid, he's visualizing it and he's sketching it out. And what she does, don't you ever do this in my class again? But she
Yep.
don't realize he's an
Wow.
artist.
Yeah.
But she don't realize that. But then here's another teacher. She noticed like I notice every time I read poems or read a story, you always like to draw and you end the class like with a little picture. Here's a teacher who can see the potential. Have you ever consider getting into art? Oh, I don't like art. So guess what I want you to do? This semester, or they have a art club. They meet once a week on Friday evenings. So right after that, you could go home. You don't have to worry about homework. Why don't you just come and check it out? Now he or she goes to the art class. Everybody's struggling to sketch. He realized what he was doing was so normal that
Yeah.
they looked at him like, you got it going on. So now that one teacher saw the potential in him as an artist, the other teacher saw it as an insult, as you're not interested in my class, you want to paint or you want to sketch. No, because thank God that that teacher saw that potential in it. So it all goes down to potential. So another story, how many people were singing in the house, and then you heard it, and I've done it, I say, oh God, forgive me, I don't, I had honey, stop it. Sometimes you might be singing too much, but I say sorry. We just want you to tune it down. But how many people said, "You don't you ever sing in this house again?"
Yeah.
And guess what? That little girl or that guy stopped singing. So therefore, in college or school, when it's an opportunity to sing, I'm not going to join. I'm not going to join because they remember everybody in the house saying, stop singing, stop singing. And their gift was to sing, but it was shattered by somebody speaking over them.
You know, you reminded me of something when I was in elementary school. This guy, he was singing, and the teacher, it was like telling him to stop, and
Yeah,
you can't sing or however, whatever. And then some time passed. I was in middle school and I was in the music class. And I know this had to be the same, it had to be the same boy because the teacher was talking about how everybody has a gift and you're not going to find your gift if you're not willing to try to, try to
ooh,
find it. And
that's
she
good.
said that she met a boy came through the class and he was real quiet and reserved. And she asked him what was wrong. And he told her that a teacher told him that he couldn't sing and to be quiet. And she said she told him at that moment, don't let anybody ever tell you that. And she encouraged him to sing. And she was like, he had a nice voice.
Gosh,
But what had happened, and I don't know where he is now, but just thinking about that, like just him being shut down at such a young age, he just withdrew and didn't want to participate in music or
yeah,
do anything with music because the teacher told him that he couldn't sing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm hearing you saying right now? That there are people watching this or listening to this. Anything that you see people doing good, especially kids, you let them know that you're seeing that. If they write pretty, say, hey man, ooh, you could write pretty. You want to write on this card for me? If they could just, if you notice that when they draw or their lines are straight, or you notice they're good with numbers, you might go to the store with them and you're like, wow, how you remember all of that? Or like my daughter, like she likes to organize. If something happened, you did a podcast, let's have a party, so let's celebrate. And she wants to put everybody's like, we just want to eat. But my daughter's like, no, we gotta have this color here, we
Yes,
have to have
yes,
these chairs here. So she on the creative side.
yeah,
Everybody's like, hey, the food here, we just ready to eat. No, nobody eat yet. But guess what? I'm letting her use her
yeah,
creativity. Or sometimes she comes in here. She put these earphones on, or the mic is not even on, and she say, "Hello, everybody, welcome to my channel." So what happens? She's using that
yeah,
creativity, and she's good at communication. So many years ago, people just start saying, and I'm keep telling her, I say, "Honey, I was like, I don't know what you're gonna be like." Even at night, last night, me and I was at home by herself. I'm cleaning up my room, and she has over by a part of my room, my drawer, like closet that she taped on the closet, and then she pretending like she's teaching a class. She said, okay, here is 1 + 1 is 2, is 4. There's no kids there. She can see the kids, right? Now, I would somebody would be like, why don't you stop talking? There's nobody here. But guess what? That's a gift. Even sometimes before we go to bed at night, we like to pray sometimes, or we might read like a little scripture, or we might read something devotional. She's the one who wants to read it. And
oh
everybody's like,
yeah,
and everybody's saying, okay, now we've been reading this for a good minute now. Everybody ready to
oh
go sleep.
yeah,
She's like, one more thing. Then she's like, everybody raise up your hand. Tell me what you learned. So I could see either she's going to be a teacher, but I know
yeah,
one thing, she's going to do something with
something,
communication and teaching because
yeah,
that's how she is. That's how she
yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and to
Woo.
be so tapped in at a young age, man, it's only gonna get better and better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you'll have these stories to tell that she probably won't want you to tell when she gets older, but you'll have them.
Say, Daddy, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Yeah, that's enough. I don't want no boys say that.
Yeah. We talked about, encouraging young people
Yeah,
and children.
yeah,
How do you find that thing to encourage and motivate adults? Because a lot of us, when we get a certain age, is like some people stop dreaming because
yeah,
they think that they're too old and they think that that time has passed.
yeah,
I've talked about this a bunch of times on this podcast. It's like you're never too old. There's always an opportunity, and if you
yeah,
have something burning inside of you, you're
yeah.
supposed to be doing it. I've seen some people who've published their first book at 60 years old.
Wow,
Stories
wow.
like that.
Yeah, Yeah.
So, how do you encourage adults to
Well,
find their purpose and to believe in themselves?
especially this happens to us when we get after we come out of high school, we start working. Some of us go to
Yeah.
college, then we get married, we have kids, and life start to happen. And especially parents, we pour so much into our kids because we want our kids to have more than what we didn't have. But what I like to tell people is, guess what? Your life is important too. Your life is important too. Like if you ever go on a plane, you'll hear the starter says, okay, in the event of emergency, it's like, Miss, we don't want to hear this emergency thing right now. We want to stay focused, right? We want to get to the destination. He or she said, in the event of an emergency and the plane has to make an emergency landing, the air mass is going to come down, but we want the adult or one of the adults to put it on first. Then after you put it on first, then you could be able to help your children. Then some parents would be like, no, no, if this plane is going to go down, I'd rather die and let my kids. No, 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 no. You can't help your kids if you don't have the mask on first. And
Nope.
some people might have say, why would you put the mask on yourself first as a parent? That is selfish. So that's what we think. I like to let people realize, no, no, no. Your life is important. You have something to contribute, and just how much you can pour into yourself, you'll be able to pour into your kids. If you go around pouring all your life into everybody else and all of your kids and all their kids, and you don't have that mask on, guess what? You can't really pour into them. So when they start to see that analogy, they start to realize, oh, wow, you're important too. You deserve to probably go watch a movie by yourself. You deserve to go for a walk. You probably deserve to treat yourself and have an ice cream or dinner where there's nobody around, because we feel like, especially we because we adult, we feel like we're being selfish because
Mm.
we're focusing on myself, right? Sometimes my wife's like, you selfish. I say, yeah, I think I might have a little selfish, but what she realized, she said, guess what? She said, I know you're going to take care of you, because I had to get to that mindset. So I say this to say, you have to realize that don't care how old you are, your life is important. Your kids have a purpose, but you have a purpose. And just how your kids have dreams and you want them to see those dreams come to pass, you have those dreams. Another thing that could help you, when you get older, you could just probably be, it's the environment that you in.
Mm.
Like you are a poet, and they might just go and visit a poet show, or someone reads poems. And guess what? They always wanted to be a poet or write poems or an artist. And that environment, guess what? It did something. But what happened?
Yeah.
We want to live life. We just want to get away. We want to get away and just get away from everything. So sometimes there is the environment that you're in. You might be working on a job, and everybody's like, every time somebody's birthday comes up, you always write a little note, but your note always sound better than everybody note. And then they's like, you know what? You probably need to start looking into this. You need to start looking. Oh, I don't know. I always wanted to be. No, here's the thing, and I'll throw it back to you. Whatever's your purpose in life and those dreams in your life, they're not going to go nowhere.
Mm.
If you are 50 years old and you are called or your purpose was to be an artist, that's still in there. You can't shake it. Now you could try smother it, but guess what? Just because you don't think about it no more, it don't mean that all of a sudden that dream has gone. That dream is there. And there's a lie out there that you're too, like you said, is you're too old to start. You're too old to start. Like you said, somebody wrote their first book at 60. Some people got their first movie role at 50. There are some people
Yeah.
who went back to school and get an education at 50. So it's never too old, because then we start thinking in our mind, okay, you're old now, you're a grandfather now, and then I brought into their life for a period of time, because my boys say, listen here, man, you married now. So therefore you can't be running like you used to be running no more. And guess what? I brought into that lie, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
stopped running, and I realized, no, 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 no. I can
No.
still run. You can
Yeah.
still go on the golf course if you like golf. You can still fish. You can
Yep.
still play pool or tennis as long as it don't interfere with the family or keep you away from the family. But that thing that you love to do, you need to start doing that again. And my wife love when I go running because when I go running, it's like meditation to me. I get my downloads and I come back in such a good state of mind. But I'm speaking to you out there. I don't care how old you are, you're never too late to start. Stop giving all of that energy to those children and start pouring into your life. This is Coach Antonio Landis Thompson talking to you today. Oh
You
boy.
have a saying that I love. I don't want to butcher it.
I say the best and the greatest day to be alive is today. But then what I realized that some people say also start saying the best and greatest day to be alive is today. If I put it in chat GDT, it says it don't say the best and the greatest day. It comes back and say the best and the greatest day. And so what so what I say is the best and the greatest day to be alive is today, or the best and greatest day to be alive is today. I don't even know how I
Yeah.
started saying that, but there's a second part of that that I don't say. It says the best and the greatest day to be alive is today because God loves me and he loves you. That's the full of it. But I just said that
Wow.
for that's what I
Yeah.
just said. That's what I just said the first part. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember the first time I heard you say that, I was just like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. It's no
Yeah.
time like the present.
That saying it came out of being grateful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just came out of gratitude, learning how to be grateful. And my mom was teaching me about gratitude, being thankful and grateful before I even knew what grateful was, knew what a gratitude mindset. And then out of that, I just started saying the best and the greatest day to be alive is the day, be the best and the greatest day to be alive is today because God loves me and he loves you. And that saying came out of just being waking up every day with a gratitude and a grateful heart. And that's where it came out of. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Sometimes
Thanks,
I
man.
say it to my wife. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think somebody told me they said my son say, he isn't married yet, so he said my son told me say he using your line when he meet the girls. He said the best and the greatest day to be alive is today, and they be like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome, that's
Yeah.
powerful." He said, "I'm not telling them where I know where I got that
Yeah.
from now."
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
automatically makes
yeah,
you
yeah,
grateful because
yeah,
as soon as you hear it, you think about it and it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm here.
And I have to, and when I wake up, like when I woke up today, sometime I don't feel like the best and greatest day to be alive is today, but I say to myself, okay, the best and the greatest day to be alive is today. And what it does psychologically is that you could even take it deeper. Like you said, that's what it does. It puts you automatically in that state of being grateful because you cannot be grateful and ungrateful at the same time.
Come on.
So therefore, when you start saying something grateful, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health. Regardless of what you experienced in that moment, it pulls you out. Therefore, when you wake up in the morning, regardless how you feel, the minute you say the best and the greatest day to be alive is the day, it pulls you out
Yeah.
and put you in that state. So psychologically, what you're doing, you actually tricking your mind and your brain and your body start to say, "Oh, the best and the greatest day to be alive is today."
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
it. That's it.
yeah,
Yep.
the best and the great, yeah, yeah. And so that's my tagline. I'm speaking somewhere next month, and the gentleman was doing the flyer. I said the flyer look good. Now you put I'm a life coach and a speaker, but I say, could you add my favorite quote? The best and the greatest day to be alive is
Yeah.
today. I said, like, that's my tagline.
Yeah. 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 Man,
Yeah, yeah.
that's gonna be the title of this episode.
Okay, I love it.
Before I let you get out of here, do you have any final words or final thoughts?
Oh, I gotta read one of your poems, man. I gotta
Okay.
read one of
All
your
right. All
poems.
right.
This poem is entitled Thoughts. Sometimes the sharpest minds can become prisoners to their thoughts, becoming empty hallways filled with the hollow echoes of doubt and regret. a lonely place with unmarked doors that make it seem inescapable. It isn't until we realize that we created the space so we know how to exit back into a place of peace. The doors are unmarked because we already have the key to unlock each one. It feels lonely because we haven't let anyone in. Our thoughts were never intended to hold us captive. Our thoughts should be the balance that allows our minds to be free. This is a poem. Thoughts from the book Pen is Not Our Only Paintbrush, Mr. Terrence P. Elmore, straight out of Charleston, Chucktown, South Carolina.
Oh man, I appreciate you, man. I might need to read my own book myself.
I was
Oh
like, I
man,
gotta read. I was like, whatever I do, I gotta read one of his poems
oh man,
on this podcast.
man. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Let the
man.
people know how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah,
Any information you want to share, any
yeah,
upcoming events. The floor is yours.
yeah. You could follow me on. I'm on social media, but I'm usually on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You could also go to my website, AntonioLandisThompson.com. And also, you could go to my YouTube page, Antonio Landis Thompson. And on my website, you could leave me a message or send me an email and I'll get back to you. I know I have a speaking engagement. If you're in the Columbia area, University of South Carolina on March, well, I don't know when this podcast will be out, but if you're in the area, go to my website or you'll see something on Facebook or LinkedIn that letting you know that you'll see where I'll be speaking. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you have it, folks. Antonio Landis Thompson. I want to thank you for
Thank
being
you,
my
man.
guest. I really appreciate you for reading my poem. Thank you so much. And to my listeners, remember, keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at thebrownsugarcafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.